have the key, which is almost identical as the 458 key. They don't have that sharp tip. It's actually very flat on the tip on the modern Ferrari keys. They don't have a keyless system yet, but I suppose maybe they'll have one in the future. Who knows? I mean, Ferrari is very driven by heritage, so it'll be interesting to see if they drop the traditional key. So let's talk about some of the interior in detail. I should say that the door operation and the feeling you get from the locking mechanism itself is similar across all the models. So to begin here, Ferraris can be options to the owner's desire, I mean, to no extreme. And they have a new tailor-made program for the truly bespoke orders. This car is one of the most exceptional, tasteful builds we've seen in factory form. What you see here is a little over $70,000 in just options alone, dealer options alone. There's bare carbon fiber everywhere, and the interior is almost a bone-colored cream with a contrasting black inserts and Alcantara inserts. I don't think there's a panel in this car that wasn't optioned in some way. The tight fit and finish of the leather panels also appears on the other Ferrari models. This F12's contrast stitching and French seams, where the black and cream contrasting Alcantaras, I mean, where those meet, I mean, it's gorgeous. It resembles something that like a famous Italian clothing designer would have imagined. The incredible thing is that the edges and the corners and everything are lined to perfection. They're lined true by hand. So on the panel here, you have the traditional door handle of the modern Ferraris, like the handle of a 458 and probably other newer generation Ferraris. And just below that, you have the controls to open the trunk and the fuel door below, which are located conveniently in the panel rather than on the floorboard. The door sill here is presented in bare carbon, which has a nice glossy finish topped with a Ferrari emblem justified center. And when you tap it, it has that true thick quality sensation. And you can tell that, I mean, it's just very, very stiff piece. I mean, obviously it's carbon, it's going to be stiff, but you feel the quality. Above it, you have the seat controls, the lumbar, the heat, very simple seat controls. And the seat again echoes the tasteful setup of the color matched Alcantara inserts. So they're the same color, but one of them is leather and one of them is Alcantara with a contrast black Ferrari stitch. The horse is stitched. And the headrest is integrated into the seat. So it's all one piece, and there's contrast stitch contour lines that follow the contour of the seat. So let's get inside and start it up. So the startup procedure is similar to other modern Ferraris. You get in, you put the key in the ignition, so you give it ignition first, put your foot on the brake, keep your foot on the brake, and push the start button. The sound of that V12, I think majority of people, that's their favorite thing about the F12 is the sound of that new V12. So I'm going to put the Manatino switch here in Sport. And we just got done reviewing the 458 Spider. A lot of the functions and things we said they carry over between models, like these air vents, very LaFerrari-like, or I would suppose the LaFerrari is very F12-like in the air vents. But a lot of the steering wheel-centered function design comes from Formula One. So, for example, the controls traditionally engaged by stocks are now buttons on the wheel. So the result is not having to take your hands off the wheel because there's nothing behind the wheel other than the shift paddles. So you can engage the shift paddles and they'll always be in one place. They don't move with the wheel. So you can engage a shift paddle there, and you have your conveniently located turn signal, wipers, your Manatino switch, your bumpy road switch, which softens up the shocks. So when you're going through bumpy road, it actually makes the car pretty comfortable. Your engine start switch, your high beam pass, and your other turn signal switch. Fortunately enough for us, this car being so heavily loaded happens to have the gear change, red line LEDs in that carbon fiber inset right there above in the top of the steering wheel. And I think they activate around 5,500 RPM. And they basically tell you when to change gears. So like the 458 that we looked at, the vehicle dynamic assistant panel is here off to the left. And I thought it was pretty interesting that the cruise control button is actually, it says pit speed, but it's really the cruise control button. So I thought that was pretty cool. And from this view, you can see the quality finish in the footrest metal panels and the footwell there, as well as a nice finish on the rim of that door panel speaker. But the four-way control on this VDA panel is there's an up, down, left, right button and a center mounted OK switch. Because this car has parking distance controls, right now it'll only let me dim it. But the navigation is the same as the 458. And opposite of that four-way button on the infotainment, you have a jog dial, which is moved up, down, left, and right to navigate through the infotainment. So a bit below the vents, there's a bare carbon separation detail where the logo is, and you have the driver passenger temperature controls, bottom center console of the 458. And there's a new button here that I saw to the left. This is a new function which I've seen, a dual view camera. So you have a view of the left and right, and it's here where the map goes. They have this screen. So this is assist you emerging if you might be in a blind spot or obstructed view. And it's pretty interesting that you can push a button and see the forward sight of the when you're parking or something. So it's a front-facing camera as well. So this is the new tunnel console design, which has a central bridge. Below it is a perfect spot for your phone, which will keep it in place in any form of spirited driving. The functional center bridge is finished in bare carbon and has a very lightweight design. The drive mode function found here is reverse, automatic mode, performance start, which is the launch control, and the hazard light switch. Behind all this, you have the window switches, and this is all, again, bare carbon in this case, and all functional and lightweight, super stiff front and back. I mean, it's a very gorgeous line that follows through, and you can see right through the central bridge there. So here you have a 12-volt power supply. Next to that, a USB input that integrates with the infotainment system. So because this car is officially a Grand Touring car, you have a raised shelf behind the seats that has volume that you can stow away items, and these items can be secured via hand-finished leather straps. And from what we noticed, this is a connection to their heritage. I mean, the fact that you can sit in a modern car and experience true traditional coachwork is fantastic. And so coming back to take a look at the passenger area, you can see the gorgeous fine stitching that lines the seams on the dash. All of the carbon ordered in this car stretches through to the other side of the dash into the passenger area and envelopes all of their AC vents. So inlaid in this leather is the F12 Berlinetta logo, and below some of these F12s have a passenger display option that gives them RPM speed, so they're engaged in the experience as well. I mean, we're truly impressed by the amount of carbon in this car. So right in the center of the dash off to the left, you have that, of course, the glove box open switch. And so coming back to the other side of the steering wheel, if you want to engage or disengage the parking brake control is found here to the lower left of the steering wheel. So you have the auto park and the manual engage switch, the mirror control, and the headlight knob. Below the headlight knob is this rear fog light, which is pretty cool. It's that 3x5 sort of F1 looking rear brake light, but it's manually turned off in this car as a fog light switch here on the knob. So going to the top stack, you can see the HomeLink system and the integrated radar detection system. In the main panel, you have the tow switch, the passenger airbag on-off, the door unlock lock, the driver reading lamp, interior cabin lamp, passenger reading lamp, and your park distance control. So you can turn your park distance sensors on and off. And you can see that the roof is completely finished in gorgeous black Alcantara. So just to reiterate, there's nothing really different about the VDA of this car and other models like the 458. But essentially, the VDA is where you want to go to display information about the current status of the components of the car, or components of the vehicle dynamics for that matter. This would be things like temperatures, levels, settings, lap times, things like that. Like where is the EDIF in its maximum setting? So things that you would need to drive the car spirited or normal, you can set up in there, and you can completely set up the car, the LED lights. Any other setup in the car can be done through the VDA system as well. Radar detector display is right here above the mirror. So I don't know if you can see that in the other shot, but it's a little display there. The controls by the wheel, steering wheel. everything is pretty ergonomic. Let's open it up here and oh my god. Oh man, that was amazing. I just got to 60 miles an hour in like 3 seconds. I don't even know what happened. When this car gets moving, it moves and it does not stop. Torque is there, although it says max power is at 8,000. You're talking about a car that's faster than the Aventador, more exciting to drive than the Aventador, all around more classy than the Aventador, but the Aventador does have doors that go up. Amazing! Wow, the handling on this car is ridiculous. It's really planted in all conditions you put it through. Truly is a grand touring car for the distinguished customer. Beautiful downshifts. But I tell you what, with all this power, with all of this aggressiveness and focus, and that's the radar detector buzzing there telling me that there's, which is probably the gas station automatic door, but honestly this car is absolutely drivable like no other. Really, you have a grand touring car with immense power and it feels very civilized, very civilized. And in this driving condition, if I was to push this bumpy road button, now all of a sudden the magnetic ride control will sort of smooth everything out and make this car even more drivable, which is pretty impressive. So in the upper class of super grand touring cars, the Aventador, the 700 horsepower range, so to speak, which there's not many, it's just this and the Aventador, I honestly could say that I would be happy with either. I might be leaning towards this car simply because of the class difference. Something you can show up to a golf course in, something you can show up to a racetrack in, and something you can show up to a nightclub in and equivalently do the same thing. So ergonomic wise, while you're behind the wheel, I haven't really had a reason to take my hands off the wheel, but I could take my hands off and everything is within reach. I don't have to get very far for anything, and of course I don't have to get it very far at all for the normal functions. I mean, this car makes amazing sounds, feels fantastic. The torque is outrageous. When it pins you back into the seat, your head is there and it's not moving until you lift off the throttle. It is absolutely blitzkrieg. You'll put the hammer down on this car and you'll be going bonkers until you release it. And so that'll conclude our review for you guys. This was a really exciting opportunity to bring this review to you. Ferrari F12